Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, December 14th, and we are at block height 499,334 on episode 63. Today, Janine is going to be leading me, Rick, and Theo in a prayer today. Join us in our moment of prayer.
Our Satoshi, who art in the Whitepaper, hallowed be thy Nakamoto consensus. Thy confirmation come, thy true vision be done, on-chain as it is in consensus. Give us this day our daily price increase, and forgive us our transactions, as we forgive those who fork off against us. And lead us not into Mises Regression, but deliver us from high fees. For thine is the blockchain, the hash power, and the mempool, on-chain forever. Amen.
Hallowed be Satoshi.
Amen.
On-chain forever. Okay, great. All right, what's the first topic today?
We are diving into a possible nightmare slash progress slash I don't really quite know how to feel about this. The Venezuelan government is constructing a miner registry, which they want to have implemented by December 22nd, in which miners will have to declare who they are, where they are, what equipment they're using. And effectively, I'm not sure whether this is the government attempting to legitimize mining or just make it easier to extort miners in the country. And I mean, given the situation on the ground down there, could really be either one.
Yeah, it's a bad thing to see that whenever Venezuela really needs this Bitcoin, and it's pretty tough times over there. But I think we're starting to see this more and more where people are using it, and the government tries to control it and regulate it. We've seen it in these Eastern European countries and around Russia, where they were talking about trying to control Bitcoin mining. So, yeah, it's not too surprising, but it's certainly upsetting to see.
I'm not 100% sure it's negative. Like Shinobi said, there has been a lot of extortion and seizures that have been really out of hand in Venezuela as far as miners are concerned. And I think the government is trying to figure out its stance on cryptocurrencies. They're even talking about starting their own. And I think that they cite one of the reasons is to prevent extortion from police and other government workers. So, do you trust? If you're there, what are you going to do? Are you going to register? Or are you going to go rogue and hope that you're not found? I think it's kind of unclear right now, but I don't see it as totally negative at this point as far as that. And it's just like we've talked about on this show. You got Russia, China, now Venezuela, also other countries trying to figure out if they want to attract miners, how they want to do it. And I think that the government does realize that, hey, we don't want to be left out of cryptocurrencies, and mining is part of that. So we have to figure out what our stance on mining is.
Yeah, especially the officials. They apparently want to have their bribes paid with Bitcoin.
Well, of course. That makes total sense.
Yeah. I mean, real quick, Rick. One of the things in the article was a former miner pretty much mentioning how he was personally extorted by the police, who wanted $20,000 in order to keep his operation off the records and keep him out of legal trouble. And what he ended up doing was actually gave the police half of his miners, and they now kind of regularly call him for technical assistance in running it. So I mean, it's really kind of a sticky situation. I mean, like in a country like America, I could see this being entirely not altruistic, but well intentioned. But when it comes to like a country in the kind of turmoil like Venezuela is, I mean, it's just as likely that police would use a database like this to go extort people as opposed to protect people. And
Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, like that's where I was just going to say is like, of course they're extorting people for this, and they want Bitcoin as their bribes because their Bolivia is hyperinflating, and it's one of these situations where I think that's why it's like it's. I mean, yeah, it's not totally negative because it does sort of show like that they're trying to get the system moving in a direction to where it can be used without, I guess, worry about what exactly is going on with the mining and Bitcoin and everything over there. So I don't know. I just, I think it's upsetting just because I wish that these governments would take sort of more of a measured, educated approach instead of just like, let's shut everything down. And like now you're seeing like we're talking about bribes and, these miners being fired back up by the police. And it's just, it's just like the way it's going about is what I'm upset about. I just don't like that.
I saw at the end of the Associated Press article that apparently at least one business in Venezuela is invested in PepeCash, which I thought was interesting.
So who was invested in PepeCash again?
There was an Associated Press article that said one of the companies that they interviewed for this article about Venezuelans using cryptocurrency was that one of them had invested in PepeCash, which I thought was they didn't say anything more of that.
Yeah, well, one of the developers that helps with the wallet and other aspects of Pepe is from Venezuela, and he's been interviewed lately a lot. Yeah, and there's been coverage. Yeah, and I mean that similar topic. I mean, it was on Max Kaiser covered it on RT, and some other big media outlets also covered that. And of course, Kyle Torpy was one of the first people to write about it, and then all of the other media sites kind of copied his article about that story because he put in the title Venezuela, rare Pepe, and cryptocurrency. So that was the kind of breaking one that did it. We've lost Shinobi. We've got, ladies and gentlemen, this is the beginning of the end of net neutrality. Shinobi is gone. Here's an example. I just want to give us some more false examples of what it's going to mean. I mean, from now on, you're going to be charged immediately, $19.95 to watch Block Digests from your local internet provider, or otherwise Shinobi leaves.
No, never. That net neutrality is, jeez. This is why we're in Bitcoin, man. It's because that problem will never get fixed until we get something like Bitcoin as like, I don't know, because yeah. I mean, as long as money's slushing around to grease these politicians, it's going to come up every year.
So I'm kind of curious. I wanted to ask Theo, because you haven't been on. We've only done 2 shows so far, and this is the 3rd since the hiatus is over. And during the hiatus, we saw the PepeCash price like skyrocket due to the all the media hype around CryptoKitties, and then a bunch of people realized, oh my god, there's one for frogs too, and so the PepeCash price shot up. What happened with that? Did anything?
Well,
was everyone excited?
Well, it's that time of the year again. So this is the token summit. I believe it's over. Not 100% sure. It's a multi-day summit. And for example, our friend, sometimes referred to as Moogly Woogly or Moogly Woggly, the ICO guy. What is his real name? Someone will come up with it. He's in Ethereum, and of course, Fred Wilson is at this conference. And it didn't originate to talk about meme coins or something like that. It's pretty much about ICOs and token economy. And of course, a year ago, also around this time, you can also look on the chart. The price went up a whole lot too, and it was just catching on. There was the beginnings of these articles about Venezuela again, and that happened again this time of the year. And you could say it's kind of weird, but I've said it before. There are kind of weird human patterns and about the seasons that happen in crypto or the crypto markets, you know, the summer drama phase, and then you at the end of the summer drama phase is usually a pump phase, and now we're coming to the decision point. In some years we've had really big dumps around this time right now coming into the new year, or we've had really big pumps. So it's kind of that decision time coming into Christmas, and that's true with Pippa too. But I think definitely you're right. CryptoKitties definitely drew attention to Rare Pepe too. People are asking, what is it, and so on. It's ironically, I think 1 week before CryptoKitties, and I don't know when it was originally launched, but a week before I heard about it at the Frankfurt meetup about Rare Pepe, people were like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I get it now. It's not just nonsense, but you know, it's not touch the thing. Yeah. And then it totally disabled the Ethereum network 1 week later. And I didn't even talk about CryptoKitties. I had never heard of it yet, but still it just shows that. So, okay. So let someone that's watching can find the statistic, but I'm very interested in it. And we can do 2018. So what is the smart contract on any chain? I don't care. You can call counterparty transactions a smart contract too, as far as I'm concerned. Peer-to-peer token exchange or token generation. You could say exclude that, or you could just use Ethereum. What smart contract was used the most in 2018 on any chain? We just say Ethereum then. What's the number? Is it what is it? Multi-sig? Okay, multi-sig. All right, multi-sig is one. I'm guessing it's something like token generation was used. I don't know. Maybe ICO vending machine was used the most. So that's where you send Ethereum there, you get tokens out. Token generation is probably first or second. And then after that is probably CryptoKitties, I'm guessing. I don't know if it's used more though, because it really, I mean, it totally destabilized network for more than 1 day. Now we had ICOs that destabilized the Ethereum network for hours or half a day because they were really popular. But CryptoKitties figured out a way to destabilize the network over an extended period of time. Because if you breed your CryptoKitties, you get more CryptoKitties and you can sell even more kitties. So it's basically like this. CryptoKitties figured out how to mix Rare Pepe, ICOs, and BitConnect together on the Ethereum chain. Because the BitConnect part is how you breed more and then you get more after that. You know what I mean? So they kind of figured out all of that together. And CryptoKitties has an affiliate program that's connected to their website, and so does BitConnect. So they've basically figured out really what works in crypto are those three things, I think.
So Ethereum is the best platform at iterating through Ponzi schemes?
Well, it's definitely for ICOs. And if you define ICO as a Ponzi scheme, then the answer would be yes. I think there's a spectrum as far as that, but I think it just shows what people like to do, and speculation is part of the CryptoKitties too, and memes and all that stuff as far as meme tokens are concerned. But I just think it's interesting, and people are finally accepting that, hey, maybe blockchain sticker books are a valid use case.
Yeah, I have a question. So we found out a few days ago that you can now you can store your CryptoKitties on a Trezor device. Do you know if there's any cold storage options for Pepe?
Yeah, sure. Well, every Pepe transaction is a Bitcoin transaction. So, you know, you can, just like any other paper wallet, you can do it. So you just look at how you do counterparty, paper wallet, and you would do it. So that's pretty easy. There is some discussion about the centralization of CryptoKitties, or if you really own it, and all this kind of stuff, because there's some kind of weird, I haven't looked into all the technicalities of it. You could kind of say that with Rare Pepe 2 to a point, but that's why you have the Rare Pepe Foundation and the scientists, that part of it as far as that goes. And the CryptoKitties, I don't know exactly how that works. And I don't know what kind of troubles they've had. I don't know if you can make like a ISIS crypto kitty or something like that, and then breed it and make more of them. I don't know if that's possible, but that's why you have centralized curators, you know, because some things, you know, they need a real powerful person like Putin, maybe.
Do we actually want to get into the CryptoKitties section now, since we're talking about it?
Well, okay. Well, do you have that technical? I've taken over the show. Do you have the technical part of that ready? Because I remember reading the Medium article 1 or 2 weeks ago, but I'm not really fresh on it. Do you want to rehash the points of it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've already gone over the fact that CryptoKitties are not actually that decentralized, but this article from today in particular is about whether you own CryptoKitties. And it's really it's really funny because actually the amount of ownership you have over CryptoKitties is very slim, because if you read through all of their legalese on their website, you find out that you can't actually use any of the images because they're all copyrighted by the company. I don't remember the name of the company that made it. So the art is all owned by the company and the artists. So if you wanted to make like a t-shirt with one of the CryptoKitties that you own, you can't technically do that legally. And there's a bunch of other legal restrictions on what you can do with CryptoKitties. The funniest part I thought was, I think further down he describes it. So they describe it as baseball cards, and he kind of goes through the argument of whether they could even be classified as baseball cards, like digital baseball cards, because at the end of the day, he points out you basically just own a string of numbers. Like that's the most you really have ownership over of the CryptoKitties, because you can't really use the art in the way that you want to. So I feel really bad for the guy that bought the Genesis kitty for $100,000 or more, because I mean, basically all he bought was a string of random numbers and letters. So I thought this was really funny, because it's like it brings up a lot of questions, because if this is supposed to be some kind of revolution in digital assets, then you have to ask the questions of, well, does the code contract override the legal contract, or does the legal contract take precedent that is not actually part of the coded contract? So yeah, I thought that was interesting to read.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the concept behind the Rare Pepe is kind of like the token is the certificate of authentication to the card or to that print of artwork. There's a limited amount of prints to that artwork. So it's more about art and less about a game per se. Of course, the cards could be used in a game, but it was more that somebody made that art. Now, there has been discussion, of course, who owns Pepe and so on. And you can see the cards. Some of them are more creative or more, an original Pepe from the first person that made it is pretty obscured, where some of them are pretty clearly old school looking Pepe. So you could get into that discussion, but I think it's a kind of a different way to approach it. Whereas the CryptoKitties, I don't really see it as the people making art. It's more of a game. And yeah, that's a shame. You can't take a picture of your own little kitty that you made. You've collected them so cutely. I mean, and maybe people don't even care. They just want to trade the tokens, and it's a fun game. But it would be, you're right, if it's going to be a revolution, then you should be able to own it. And I do believe, now I haven't tested it, but as far as the Pepes are concerned, you can store Rare Pepes on an open dime, which is pretty cool. And that actually is what makes sense. So if you could do art or let's just say art tokens or game tokens, and you can put it on something like an open dime, that's cool. With Trezor, if you could put CryptoKitties on Trezor, that's pretty cool. I mean, the guy's argument about it's just a string of numbers, that's definitely true. And you're just claiming that's, as far as the Pepe example, you're just claiming that string of numbers belongs to that artwork. I mean, there's not anything someone could say that's not true, for sure. But yeah, that's why you have the central authority that's really strong, like Putin. No, I'm just joking. Like the Rare Pepe Foundation or another curation or whatever organizations. That's a kind of a mix between central and decentral. So, but we can go on now. I see there's some other topics. Shinobi, you've got another topic
I don't want to go on. Keck is shining upon us, and we can espouse the glory of Keck and Rare Pepe.
Anyway, no, but I think
is Keck like our parody equivalent of like Lucifer or something?
No, well, it's
if we're going on the religious angle.
Great. It's deeper than that
JW.
because Keck.
Hey guys,
JW is in the house. Yeah, no, it's okay. They said Keck, and then you appeared. So,
perfect.
That's actually what happened, right? So, I'll just say really quick, Janine, that's a really interesting question. If Keck is an equivalent to Lucifer, I would say no. It is a dark god, but it's more of dark in the sense of the unknown. So it's more about bringing the unknown to the light, or it's the unknown. So the dark in that sense, not necessarily as evil.
See, like, we can't move on, Theo. Look at this. Janine, explain this wild misunderstanding rooted in not knowing about Rare Pepe.
Yeah, so I think this was from today. So Aaron ended up having a discussion with Rick Falkfinge about what Bitcoin is useful for. And I thought it was interesting that Rick compared Bitcoin to a Picasso painting. It's not even worth, apparently its store of value is as a kind of painting, that you can't actually move it anywhere. It doesn't have any function, but it's apparently nice to look at. So I don't know, how many of you guys do you hang your Bitcoin transactions on the wall or something? Or
that's unbelievable.
Do you print them on bags? I just thought it was a interesting I mean, I disagree with him that Bitcoin can only ever be a store of value the way it is now, but I mean, it's definitely functioning as a store of value, though I wouldn't compare it to a Picasso painting.
Yeah, it's a little more subdividable than that.
Yeah,
a little easier to transport.
We could have some Rare Pepe Picassos, though, right?
And also, because if you wanted to think of, I don't know, Bitcoins as a painting, then I guess the miners would be the painters. But obviously that doesn't work, because once you transfer a Bitcoin, it's not like, no one thinks of who created the Bitcoin. Like, the artist of the Bitcoin isn't important.
Right. Well, actually it would be like this. The users, or the non-mining nodes, would be the artists, and the miners would be the curators that actually approve of the artwork to go in the ledger.
Yeah. Long and short, though, is he is a fool. We obviously already have our digital Picassos. They're Rare Pepe.
And actually, I want to point out I actually forgot the reason that whole discussion between Aaron and Rick started was because Aaron was asking people like Rick and Roger and Craig why they still held on to, quote, Bitcoin core coins if they thought that it was a non-functional chain, because Roger got asked that question a few days ago by Jimmy Song, and Roger said, well, he wants to diversify his portfolio. That's a smart thing to do. But then Aaron pointed out, well, that doesn't make sense. You don't diversify into an asset that you think is useless. So
yeah,
all of these guys are saying, like, Bitcoin isn't useful. Its value is going to die, but they're holding on to it because they actually think it might have value.
No, they're just liars. That's what it comes down to. They're just constantly full of garbage. Everything that they say is self-contradictory nonsense.
I just want to remind everybody something that I always mispronounce his last name, but the guy that likes to put a patch over his face in pictures but not wear it in real life sometimes. That people being good at people power or people skills is more valuable than development skills. So just keep that in mind the next time that some people go crazy.
No way, no way. I reject every fiber of my
I kind of agree.
No.
No, this is what I just wanted to, what I think is interesting though, because he is the self-proclaimed CEO of Bitcoin Cash in the paper where he wrote that. Okay. So just think of that quote and then think of what happened during the Roger Ver Bitcoin era log interview, and then repeat. People skills are more valuable than dev skills. So you see what I mean? So
Yeah,
you might
I
need
see
to,
the irony of what
you see,
you're trying
that's
to
the
say.
thing. The context of that is a little weird. And also even Rick Falk Vintage's own tweets. He could also do some work on his people skills at times. So maybe that was a reflection on his self, a projection of things that he thinks he should work on himself.
Yeah, I took that as kind of a direct statement that political power is more important than economic power. That if you can convince people and manipulate them and get power over them, then that's more powerful, and that's better than just being able to build the product or service that they'd happily engage in. You know, that Oppenheimer dichotomy between political means and economic means. I don't know if that's how
I think that's where he's getting at too. I just found it really ironic given the state of people's skills. Sometimes it's crazy.
It's also ironic.
Sure, nobody wants to give the Mason the credit, right? I mean, not the Freemason. I mean, the Mason laying the bricks. You know, you say, "Oh, you're not worth anything."
Right, you know? Exactly. The irony, not just his people skills suck, but also the irony that Bitcoin is the best thing we've ever invented to make that less true than it ever has been before. That no, your political skills will become completely useless because there won't be any, there won't be a government with guys with guns victimizing people to fight over. Right? It'll no longer be cost effective to be a criminal. So your ability to get criminals on your side in order to rape and pillage is just not going to be a valuable skill anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the last irony before we slide along in that whole thing was how it started off saying we will never tell people what they can and can't do, and then promptly went to list things that Bitcoin Cash will never do, such as implementing the evil replaced by fee or any kind of thing like segregated witness. But we're not going to tell you what you can and can't do. We're just never going to do these things.
Right. We're not going to tell you what you can and can't do, but you will never be able to replace a fee on a transaction because you want it to move faster. That's not something we're going to allow of you.
We'll never tell you what to do, but if you stray from our interpretation of Satoshi's vision, you're out.
Totally. The true vision of the prophet Satoshi.
But kind of relating to developers versus people skills, though, Bitpay is actually about to start a slow transition with purchases for their debit card to only accept payments using the payment protocol. And pretty much they're planning on transitioning first to the purchase of the card will require compatibility with this, and then loading the card, and eventually any payment process through Bitpay. And there's really a couple things that I have a problem with here. One, that this is pretty much a 4-year-old BIP. Like the entire BIP is essentially providing a method for the merchant to communicate with the consumer and actually send a payment request that is signed to a key owned by the merchant, and has a little more user friendliness as far as displaying things. Like it would show the merchant's domain and actually keep a record on the consumer side of the purchase so that they could have something to provide in case of contesting or any kind of problem with the purchase. And why did this take 4 years? I mean, this is one of the biggest companies in the space, and just now they're rolling out a BIP that is 4 years old, that is only, to my knowledge, compatible with the BitPay wallet, the CoPay wallet, Mycelium, and Electrum. So they're kind of like lagging here. I mean, like, just as we're about to start transitioning into second layer solutions for transacting when Lightning goes live, they're still struggling to keep up with implementing things to make on-chain purchases function more smoothly for the customers. And the second thing I really have a problem with is they're effectively forcing users who utilize their service now to use one of these 4 wallets. I mean, like on top of taking 4 years to implement this BIP, they did absolutely nothing to actually, you know, help wallets integrate this. They didn't take any developer time. They didn't have any kind of outreach to other projects in the community to get this implemented ecosystem wide. And the few wallets that have now are your only option after they complete this transition to continue using BitPay. So they're effectively lagging behind what the ecosystem is doing, and now forcing customers to use specific wallets that are also, for the most part, lagging way behind in the ecosystem in order to use their services. So they're effectively bullying users into using subpar software for most of its feature set because it complies with this one BIP standard that they're finally now rolling out. I mean, like this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, man, I don't really care for that whole like just kind of moving everybody over to this other coin type proposition that seems to be going on that whole side. I mean, been working a little bit on something to sort of see how people just sort of go into Bitcoin.com, how that process works, and how people, you know, and it just does seem like more and more like the infrastructure is leading the customer towards Bitcoin Cash. And I mean, we've heard them discuss that. It's just, yeah, I don't know how much is, but it's like, you know, how much of it they can get away before some sort of lawsuit gets dropped about fraud or something. It's, I don't, you know that much entirely about these payment protocols, but like basically that's what we're talking about is that this is, you know, you're going to have to be on their system, on their chain in order to use the BitPay card, right?
And I mean, you know, this is a huge aspect of like all the bullshit going on in the ecosystem as far as people like complaining about high fees and not doing anything to fix it while they're literally contributing to it. I mean, like a company like BitPay and not integrating SegWit, not keeping up with developments in the ecosystem are literally creating the inefficiencies that they're complaining about. And it's very duplicitous and underhanded. I mean, like if they have something they can do, which they do, to help alleviate these high costs for users and streamline how the network is working, and they don't, and continue to complain about it, I mean, how are like their customers and other people in the ecosystem supposed to perceive that?
And I believe they were the ones that were processing payments for Steam, right? And then Steam got rid of them because the transaction fees were too high. And then I think there's now another company that took over it, which actually has.
Yeah, I think Square Cash is doing.
Yeah.
You can purchase like gift cards through them, I think, for Steam now for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to these guys. A lot of these guys getting replaced. I mean, Coinbase drives me nuts for not implementing SegWit, and you know, most of the same characters have been pushing all of the major attacks that we've faced in Bitcoin. So I'm glad that they're. I'm glad they're. You know, I think we're very fortunate that we tend to live, or it seems like we live in a universe where if you are good at dirty, underhanded, you know, political means, you just can't seem to hire a good developer. I don't know why that is. Like, I don't know why the SegWit 2x attack had to be so pathetic that the best they could get was Jeff Garzik to introduce like 4 critical plus bugs. But I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do too, man.
Yeah, and I believe
I mean,
BitPay was BitPay, as I wrote in my blog post about it, BitPay was one of the companies that actually did have one of their developers review the Sega 2x code, and he did not find any of those bugs. They were on the technical review.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I guess it doesn't necessarily need to be rocket science, right? Maybe it's not motivating to work for the dark side.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, as a kind of a last note on this, though, I mean, like people and customers need to hold these companies accountable. I mean, they're literally screaming about how fees are too high for customers and it's causing problems for users. Well, I have a solution as a user. Implement SegWit. Like it's been there. All of the actual work aside from integrating it into your software, was done for you. Like, people have literally offered to help implement these things, and these companies are still sitting on their hands going, but fees are too high. Oh, look at this other thing where this whole new system that we're integrating now, instead of streamlining the one that everybody's using, requiring you to move over to a different coin, deal with an entirely different market with entirely different price discovery, and that's simpler than improving the thing you already support. I mean, well, that's not logic.
It's not even the top 5 of their customer support requests, right? That's not even a priority for Coinbase to implement SegWit. Nobody cares about it. Like, fees aren't a problem, or it's not congested anymore. Don't you remember?
Good Brian Armstrong.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't know how these guys do it with a straight face. Like, I don't even think he let a full week go by between like, oh my God, fees are so high, everything's falling apart. We need to introduce these security bugs and raise the block size and do all this stuff. And then it's not even in the top 5. I don't know how they can maintain both.
Well, they don't make money fast enough by implementing SegWit. You make money if you have new pairs, more things to buy, then you're going to stay in the casino longer.
Well, I mean,
if you have SegWit, then
yeah, sorry, man.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, I think most of the money that these guys are making is on selling Bitcoin, right? They get 1% of every Bitcoin that they sell, and if they would focus on what's actually making them money instead of trying to focus on destroying the thing that's making them money, they would improve the network. They would improve the speed with which you could buy Bitcoin, right? They would streamline this stuff by implementing SegWit, so you don't have to wait on your transactions to buy stuff. And then if they would do that, people would be even more excited to buy Bitcoin. They'd sell more Bitcoin. I almost guarantee you they'd be more profitable. But for some reason, you can apply that same logic to a lot of people that are doing evil things. Like, it's not even in your own best interest. Just stop being an asshole. But they got to execute their nature, I
guess. I'm not 100% sure it's in their favor, actually. Because what if they just want you to keep the coins on Coinbase as long as possible? And so they're fine with high fees, actually.
And then you can just definitely a good point. That is an angle that has been one of their plays.
And as Brian Armstrong has said, CryptoKitties is the #1 priority.
Right. He wants some new tokens on that platform. That's the priority.
I haven't seen
Bring the shit coins.
I haven't actually seen anyone complain about the fact that fees went up because of CryptoKitties. Did anyone see anyone complaining about that? I mean, the CryptoKitties Twitter account was like within 3 days of launching, they were tweeting fire emojis like you wouldn't believe. But apparently no one seems to have a problem with the fact that CryptoKitty fees are expensive.
Well, that's because it's the world's computer, and they're doing a lot of really impressive calculations and problem solving on that thing. I mean, if you're gonna figure out nuclear fusion, then it's gonna take some cycles. Oh no, we're talking about cats. Never mind. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that, but that's good, because first we need to solve our crypto pet problems. First, get that right, and if we can get that right, then we can start doing nuclear fission and self-driving cars and I don't know, whatever stuff. But I mean, would you want to be in a self-driving car that can't handle CryptoKitties?
You got me there. Yeah,
and we also need to think about doing things like multisig. That thing that's like a really simple smart contract that. I was having a conversation today with Matthew Green because he was unexpected conversation, because he was saying that the reason Ethereum scales is because they have the willingness to add new things. They're open to ideas. And eventually the conversation got down to, okay, so Ethereum has been up for 2 years now, more than 2 years. And where is their secure consumer-facing multisig wallet? Where is it?
Yeah, I think the Ethereum network is about as anemic as their leader. If we buy that guy a few steaks and fatten him up a bit, he'll be able to write some useful code.
Oh yeah, where's the Vitalik? Where's that campaign?
I don't know. I haven't seen.
I don't
was
mean
the worst.
anything. I don't mean anything. I don't think mean anything negative towards him, but I get worried for his health, how he looks sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, his neck to head ratio is so messed up. I feel like somebody should be holding the back of his head like he's an infant. I mean,
You're just jealous of the brain power, you know.
I'm just afraid he's going to look up too fast and he's just going to break his own neck.
Okay, back to technicals. But I seriously think that, you know, if you're going to have a smart contract platform and you don't have a functioning multi-sig wallet after 2 years, something is wrong, because Bitcoin has had multi-sig since I think at least 2014, if not sooner than that. I think the first one is 2014. But yeah, so if Bitcoin is doing multi-sig fine, and you're marketing yourself as a smart contract platform and you can't do multi-sig securely, like, something is going on. You're getting way too distracted with all these new ideas that are being thrown at you all the time, including these cats. Oh, but
Yeah.
maybe there is a group of people out there who wants to store their CryptoKitties in multisig, and so Ethereum will finally get a secure multisig wallet because people want to share custody of their kitties.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that the fact they can't do multi-sig definitely illustrates just how they can't do anything, right? I mean, that's just about the simplest smart contract that could be conceived of, and if you can't do that, then I can't think of a better test to say that you can't do anything, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
do
speaking
crypto.
of
That's not
speaking of tests, though, I think Mr. JW here has put up a pretty good test of his own here. If you want to break down this interaction here, JW.
Yeah, that's probably why I'm so mouthy today, because I've just been exchanging blows with Craig Wright for the last 24 hours at a pretty heavy pace. So basically what happened is two things that got me fired up. First, let's see, Roger Ver tweeted out some nonsensical drivel about evidence of absence, implying that Craig Wright really was Satoshi, right? And they're kind of walking this line of saying it but not saying it, right? And that was annoying. But then a couple days later, I saw that Eric Lombroso kind of felt enough pressure to go on a bit of a Twitter storm and explain how he's really been trying to build bridges with these guys, and showed the email that he sent to Roger Ver, just kind of saying, look, you know, there's obviously technical issues here, and we need to work through them, but you know, it's just become personal. And just the fact that was really distracting, like somebody that really has contributed a lot, and probably depressing the guy, right? Because you can't really interact with these guys without kind of getting bummed out. Just, you know, it finally annoyed me to the point where I poked at Craig a little bit. And it didn't take much. I mean, let me tell you, this guy, he was ready to go. So I don't know how many dozens of tweets we've exchanged over the last 24 or 48 hours, but basically what I was saying is, look, Craig, if you're gonna claim to be Satoshi, you're gonna have to interact with this evidence that the security researcher Dan Kaminsky presented, that we all that understand public key cryptography seem to understand means that you're not only a fraud, but you're like a cryptographically proven fraud, right? And so he replied back and said some nonsense, and it ended up where he was just calling Dan Kaminsky out and saying that Dan Kaminsky is actually a clown and doesn't know what he's talking about. And so you know, it got heated to the point where I thought, you know, maybe it's a good idea just to put our money where our mouth is. So I said, I tell you what, I'll bet you $10,000 that if we grab 5 random security experts, right? So we go to like IC Squared or the SANS Institute or something like that, and we just ask them to grab 5 random security researchers. We throw the evidence in front of them. If 3 of the 5 don't conclude that you are a fraud and not Satoshi, you get my 10 grand. Otherwise, I get your 10 grand. And that actually, you know, he bid on that enough to say maybe we should up it. And so 2 more people have jumped in. And we've got it up to a $30,000 pot right now. And I don't think he's going to go for it. I don't think he's actually going to follow through on it. I think he's going to pull a Roger and not do it. But you know, there's basically $30,000 of proof right now that's just sitting there that in addition to the actual cryptographic evidence, that there's nobody that has any idea how this stuff works that could possibly think that he's anything other than a clown.
Yeah, I mean, even the bet aside, although it would be fucking hilarious to see him cough up money if he actually is the type of person who would keep a bet. I think that it's something that should be done anyway. I mean, like this, it's been a year since that information was ripped through and kind of demonstrated to be bullshit, and we've had a lot of new people come in since then. I think maybe it's time to kind of go over that again.
Yeah, and I mean, these guys have a business model, right? They're not doing this just purely for pride. These guys go around and they raise a lot of money from private investors, and they have their lunches, and I'm sure that they do a wink and a nod like, yeah, you're not having lunch with Satoshi right now. The bullshit stuff that guys like this do to take people's money. And that I can kind of stomach because, fools are going to invest in foolish things. But what really pisses me off is that you're right. There's been a lot of new people coming into the space, and they're getting, like new innocent, new regular people, right? That don't have $10,000 or $5,000 that they can afford to lose on a scam. Those are the guys that I really feel for when, there's people that are so prominent in our space. I mean, we've had millions and millions of dollars pouring in, and we've got these vultures on the sidelines just grabbing a certain percentage of innocence and just sucking them off into financial ruin. And, if we can up that, or if we can make that a little bit harder for those guys to do, I think that's good enough. And hopefully, hopefully the rest of the security community will get more interested in this space. Guys like Dan Kaminsky, he did the first security review of Bitcoin, and he doesn't really buy the economics, which is fine because he's not, he's not an economist, and he's not a, like a Wall Street guy. He's a security researcher, and he's very much been focused on finding security bugs and, saving civilization in that particular way. But if we can get more of those guys interested in the space and interested in helping expose, the guys that are really dirty actors, I think that'll be great for the community overall.
But JW, I mean, do you think $10,000 is really a big enough reward for him? I mean, he has to pay those rental bills for his Lambo.
That's true. It's probably it's probably only going to cover like 2 or 3 months of the Lambo, but there's it's $30,000 now. And in all fairness, I think if he replied back and said he wanted it to be $100,000, I think there'd be 7 other people that are so confident that he's not Satoshi that the pot could be as high as he wants it to be. So, but yeah, I think it's really obvious he's not Satoshi. I'm just hoping that if nothing else, some people are going to be aware that bet is outstanding, and that the way that we've structured it is so reasonable and fair, right? Because it's possible that I'm wrong, right? I'm not omnipotent. I make mistakes. I've screwed up stuff before. So theoretically, it's possible that I'm looking at the evidence that Dan put together and I'm making a mistake in interpreting it, right? But if you say that you grab 5 random security experts that have no interest in one side or the other of this debate, and 3 of the 5 have to be like positive that you're a con artist in order to lose, and you won't take that debate, or you won't take that bet, like I just couldn't stack it in his favor anymore. And so I think I'm hoping that even people that can't understand the crypto can understand this is a very reasonable bar to ask this guy to meet if he's not a con man.
Well, what happens if, these security researchers get to, would they be anonymous? Because what might happen is that, so-and-so security researcher announces their results, and then he just sues them into oblivion. And then, it becomes 4 security researchers, and then 3, and then 2, and then, you're left with the only ones that are in favor of him.
Yeah, so the way that I was picturing this is that we would, like, for example, the Sands Institute has a bunch of these guys, and we would just say, hey, you've got a bunch of people on your membership. We're going to give $200 to each one, or $100, whatever, for probably no more than 20 minutes worth of work. And we're going to give you this evidence package via email. And we would trust, whoever the administrator is of Sands, because these guys have big reputations, right? To go ahead and deal with a little bit of that internal shuffle. And then just publish the results, right? Here's the people and here's the results, and it's out in one publication. And who knows? Maybe theoretically, maybe I'm wrong, and there's not enough evidence to prove that this guy's a con man, right? And then I'd be out some money. But I'm not losing sleep over the odds of that.
Biggest plot twist ever would just be him actually signing the keys. I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
I no. For me personally, I mean, I don't think he is either. But if he somehow, some way, proved that he was, I still wouldn't really give a shit because he's gone so far away from the person. Like, even if we were to take Satoshi's writings as, the holy gospel or something of Bitcoin, he's moved so far away from that he's not even the person that, like, all of the people who fell in love with Bitcoin, that fell in love with it after reading his stuff. Like, I've yet to meet anyone who genuinely feels that same excitement about anything he writes. Like, he's so different from the person he was, which is fine. People can change, but if they change that much without explanation, it just makes me suspicious.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if it turned out that he had Satoshi's keys, it doesn't really matter as far as Bitcoin's concerned, right? Like, Satoshi doesn't matter. He hasn't checked in any useful code in a long time. And if he returned and checked in some useful code, he'd only be as useful as the last dev that checked in useful code, right? Like, it's a meritocracy. You did some stuff in the past, great. So it doesn't really matter whether we know who Satoshi is or if he is Satoshi, that sort of stuff. As far as Bitcoin itself is concerned, it's really only interesting because it's a bullshit card that this guy's playing to attack the innocent. If he wasn't doing that, I don't think I'd even care.
Yeah, and I mean, a little thing to round it off with before we move on to a surprise from Uncle Sam is when Craig first got into the space, Gavin and a lot of others were trying to spin this narrative that if Satoshi ever came back, he should just be in charge of development again and decide what goes where because he's Satoshi. I mean, that's an important piece of contextual information when you're looking at his arrival in the space.
Yeah, to be fair, though, isn't Gavin the same one that thought that Mike Hearn would be a good dictator for Bitcoin? Was it XT? I think he said that Mike Hearn should be a dictator. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm checking out of that bus.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it is interesting that all these guys are, they're always there. It's been like the same cast of characters and like all these attacks. Gavin has been trying to get the block size to a dangerous level for several releases or several attempts. So, I mean, it's fortunate, I guess. We have a pretty big community of some amazing people, and we only have 5 or 6 guys that are just complete clowns that are, unfortunately, some of them are CEOs of companies, but there's not very many of them, so they're easy to keep track of, I guess.
And I also have a bit of news. Well, it shouldn't be news, but apparently is news to some people. If any of you hate the term Bitcoin Core, if you just don't like that name because, it makes it sound important or centralized or blah, 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 up with the name Bitcoin Core, Mike Hearn and Gavin. So if you want to blame anyone, Roger, for the fact that Bitcoin has a core, you can blame Gavin and Mike, and they are mostly now gone because people like Luke DeJure and Peter Todd were saying it wasn't a good idea to rename Bitcoin QT to Bitcoin Core because, as you are now saying, it makes it sound centralized, but apparently they were overruled. Most people didn't really care. But yeah, if you hate that name, go talk to Mike and Gavin.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Sweet nectar of irony, right?
Yeah, it seems like nobody understands that the membership requirement to become part of Bitcoin Core is just to write one line of code that's useful. That's all you have to do. Just write one line of useful code, right? Like if Roger wants to take over or become a member of Bitcoin Core, just write one line of useful code and you have just as much claim to be a core developer as anybody else.
But I mean, kind of widen the scope a little bit though. U.S. is in the middle of some tax reform bills right now, and the House and the Senate have each pushed their own version, and nothing explicitly dealing with cryptocurrency so far, but there are a few things that might possibly affect things. For instance, there is a like-kind exemption for exchange of like-kind assets where you can kind of delay or push off capital gains for things. And much what a lot of altcoin traders have been using to kind of delay having to pay capital gains on every move in and out of that they make. And that's explicitly pretty much being taken off the board for everything except real estate and if anybody remembers the Cryptocurrency Tax Fairness Act, that's nowhere in any of the descriptions of things. And another thing being bounced around, potential for applying a requirement for first in, first out, which is effectively something applied only to securities right now. So, yeah, I mean, there's a kind of a lot of regulatory things happening right now for a lot of different aspects of the space. And, you know, this is stuff that we really need to pay attention to, because if we don't have some kind of participation in the process defining things, well, then they're just going to get defined without us, and we're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, we need to get involved here. Like this kind of tax code applied blanket like this can be pretty dangerous, I think.
Quick, I guess JW's got to dodge for some social obligations he's been skirting.
Thanks, guys. It was fun, and I'll catch you on the mumble.
All right, later, JW.
But yeah, I mean, like you were just saying, Act, like these, you know, you can be a voluntarist all you want, but at the end of the day, something that exists that will still use force if necessary to apply the laws that they pass, and partake in the process of defining those laws, well, they're just going to do what they're going to do, and we're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, there's many people, myself included, who were really, you know, I was really paying attention to that tax code, and to a large degree, it made sense to me the way it was altered previously. But I think their issue is the huge span of other crypto assets outside of the main, you know, kind of basket that has been around for a while, right? And I think that's what they're trying to tackle with this. And you know, I think there's much better ways to handle that. And unfortunately, that involves having a deeper understanding of the space. And I think they're neglecting to really dive in and to find what is best fitting here. And I think we need to get involved.
Wait, is this the tax policy change that says you have to calculate capital gains based on the first coin you bought? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and FIFO itself is incredibly dangerous too, because of the way that works. There are some people who could be pretty much unfairly taxed, and I think that's also very dangerous outside of the altcoin aspect of this.
I mean, like, to me, that idea doesn't make sense in any fashion, because I'm pretty sure that the intent of that is just a de-anonymization thing. They want to find out who the early Bitcoins are, and if you basically have a requirement where you have to calculate that based on the first coin you bought, well, then you're going to reveal how early you were in Bitcoin, and that will mean you probably have a lot of Bitcoin. So yeah, I find it's as a tax policy, it's completely nonsensical unless your goal is to de-anonymize Bitcoiners.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a bad way to handle taxes. I mean, like, let's say I bought like 100 coins back in 2010 and have literally never touched them and have continued buying and using coins the whole way through. Like, why the hell am I going to be taxed for gains on that first 100 coins that I've literally never touched? Like, those coins that were bought at that price are sitting in some address somewhere definitively proved to have never moved. So why should I be taxed on those gains that I haven't realized simply because I'm spending other coins I've acquired? I mean, just the entire notion of applying things like that, it's ridiculous.
And does this only apply to coins that were bought or any coins that were ever received in any fashion, including mining or donation?
Well, I mean, I assume it would be anything, because even like a miner, you have to declare it as income, but you would still be realizing a gain if you held it for a while. And I mean, even coins sent to you as a gift or a donation, like you would still be realizing gains if you held them for a while. So I think it would be applicable to all of the above.
Yeah, it doesn't, I don't know, that first in, first out sounds like, yeah, there's probably some other motives there about breaking, these, where are these coins at, and can we track who has them and everything. And I mean, I imagine a big part of that is also just trying to extract as many taxes out of the system as they can. And I mean, like, I didn't read that much into this. I'll say though, it is, I mean, like, it looks like they're trying to get rid of that one thing where I keep hearing about is people upset about, oh, is it true you have to claim capital gains on any switch into an altcoin? So at least maybe that headache will go away. But yeah, this is it's pretty weird, that first in, first out rule. But I don't know. We'll see how they can, whether they can really even, implement that. I mean, I guess they can try.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's completely foolish. Like, I don't know. I don't think anyone is going to be able to, like, even if they wanted to, I don't think anyone would be able to comply with this, because how many people have, every time they make a transaction, how many people have every single coin they've ever gotten, like, ready on hand to calculate that? Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just incredibly painful for someone like myself who's been planning to, oblige that tax code to the best of my abilities. So this is really just, and it just seems like a slap in the face.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the regulations coming like from U.S. legislators, I think, is very poorly done lately. I mean, like the tax code not making any kind of sensible policy for like applying anything but FIFO. Like I said, I should be able to not have to pay gains on coins I literally haven't touched since I bought them. And then, I mean, you look at the bill being pushed to attempt to criminalize not declaring your coins or trying to obscure ownership of them, and as well declaring tumbling, money laundering. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like the tax regulations as they're applied are horribly inefficient and invasive. And like if you're attempting to literally criminalize not declaring your ownership of something and criminalize tumbling your coins, I mean, that's literally dangerous. Like if you make it a crime for me to mix my coins and obscure my ownership of them on chain, the simplest piece of metadata can take anybody and point them at my entire net worth. It can literally make me a target and put my physical safety at risk. And I would have to be in that situation because of the laws my country is passing. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, 10 years from now, if we're at some insane price, like $100,000 a coin, $1 million a coin, I'm just supposed to leave that entire history of ownership for any asshole with an internet connection to track my money around, to figure out I own that much money. I mean, that is just like criminally negligent in my point. They're actively putting people's safety at risk in the long term.
Isn't it kind of interesting? There's a lot of parallels between this new tax policy and United Bitcoin, which apparently has the goal of getting people to resurface their old coins, which is a de-anonymization tactic. It feels kind of weird that they're happening at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point. That all these airdrops, it's really trying to encourage people to move those coins. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I mean, it's probably part of a bigger picture to get the eyes on those.
I mean, it's not like Jeff Garzik is the CEO of a company that, does blockchain analysis, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, I think that then we should take a moment to check out the webpage of United Bitcoin. I really like the quote in the upper right-hand corner that says, "I actually did this kind of backwards," but we don't know what he did. Satoshi, not it's a quote from Satoshi. I mean, he could have been, wrote his post backwards. We don't know.
He's fallen from grace.
Yeah, so it goes there. There's some key quotes from Satoshi, of course. And of course, it states that United Bitcoin is a project to create an authority dedicated to developing Bitcoin software, protecting the users from fraud, ensuring stable growth of Bitcoin value, and continuous and guaranteed functioning of the network. I mean, that sounds great. We want all those things. And we want protection, of course. And, and like it says here, Satoshi said, the central bank must be trusted. So we go further down. There's a lot of really interesting points. I encourage everyone to check out united-bitcoin.com. And, they really are. There's even a fork claiming our name, they said. And it aims to steal all inactive Bitcoins and put them in the domain of some shady committee. Such power shouldn't be concentrated in the hands of some random coders. So here are their proposals. I've got some node security, strategic decisions, how they're made, software development, a lot of things. But then there's the final ingredient. Putin.
Can't mess with
Oh
that
my
guy.
God.
Check out.
Putin's involved?
Everybody check out united-bitcoin.com. Check it out for yourself and make your own conclusions.
So, in case anyone watching was really confused just now, this whole United Bitcoin thing that Jeff Garzik thinks he very originally created, well, there was actually another website called United Bitcoin, and they're very upset that Jeff Garzik has taken his name. So Theo was reading off of the parody website, and Shinobi was actually at the real one.
You shouldn't have let people know. Everyone should have kept a straight face. Come on, we were going really good.
People would have been able to tell the difference, honestly. I mean, look at this thing. This is literally no different than all the shitcoin forks we went over in the last episode. I mean, look, fancy website. What's that? Do smart contracts.
I mean,
guys.
it has got the
smart contracts.
It's got the 2014 scrolly thing going on with kind of the updated menu on the right with the dots. So it's got I like the smart contracts. You need that. What else do we need?
I mean, come on, guys. Look, it's literally the Star Trek Federation of Planets logo, except Bitcoin.
Oh, if you go further down,
I heard they had a God mode.
Well, we'll get to that later, but first let's talk about this website. First of all, I love the first animation at the very top because when I saw it, I thought that's like a really cool visualization of Jeff Garzik's reputation going down a digital toilet. The next one that I like, if you go further down, there is a robot picture, and that is Eve from the WALL-E movie. I'm pretty sure there's some copyright infringement with that. I don't know where it is. I think it's by Smart. Yeah, there it is, Eve. You got Eve the robot. That's from WALL-E. Copyright infringement. They're going to get taken down.
Right.
Also, I just want to, I don't know how many
pretty lazy.
Yeah, I don't know how many people have seen the WALL-E movie, but I think that's actually a bad example to use for an image for smart contracts because in the WALL-E movie, the robots actually break their contractual obligation to serve the humans, and they try to like take control of the ship and kill everyone. And it's also very centralized. The main robot takes control of all the other robots, turns them red. And the ship almost crashes. WALL-E saves the day. Sorry for the spoilers, but seriously, that is not a great reference to make.
They should have a picture of a cat.
Right? Get the memes going hard, but yeah, it definitely does look like some sort of copyright infringement, and it definitely does look like they're selling the ICO tech. Invest your money. When I turned on the website, I was blasted away by some, real, like, I don't know, sharper image type music. It was just like, what the hell is this? But I guess they're just letting you know that this is some really techno incredible crap, and they want your money. But I don't know what the hell it is, other than the fact that it's something ridiculous that Jeff Garzik's working on again.
Yeah, I mean, the
All
whole
right.
thing is ridiculous.
Well, and I also just want to remind people, I think the roadmap is on the website, but if you look at it, you'll notice it goes all the way back to 2016. So you're thinking, Jeff Garzik was working on Metronome. He was the CEO of Block. He was supposed to be developing the Sego 2x code. That kind of went down the toilet, like his reputation. Yeah, he was working on a bunch of different things all at the same time, and 2 of them were competitors to Bitcoin. So, yeah, does any...
But wait a minute,
I mean,
didn't he do a satellite or something, or that never worked out? Or didn't he have
Maybe.
like a long time ago the whole idea
Oh
of the
yeah,
satellite project,
the
right?
CubeSat. Yeah. I don't
Right.
think he ever actually got that in the air.
Right.
Got
Yeah,
that nice
so-
picture.
So what you're trying to say is that Garzik had 2 conflicting projects with SegWit 2x prior to the New York agreement being signed. Not just 1, 2.
It's almost like he wanted Bitcoin to fail.
Or he knew that this was his last series of bro downs before it's all over.
Yeah, but like this whole fork is so like ridiculously shady. And I mean, like if you even look here, like Vladimir got a bunch of shit for making this tweet, grabbing all coins in God mode. But that's serious. Like if you actually go look in the source code, there is a God mode that effectively lets them seize or do with any coin they want, whatever they want. So they're effectively going to fork this, give the coins to everybody holding Bitcoin, but then if you don't move them within some arbitrary time period using a mechanism that they set up, they're going to take your coins, and this is going to become a budget now for the foundation to make United Bitcoin great again. I mean, it's
I think that whoever is doing the marketing for these forks needs to really think of a different name. Maybe not Bitcoin something, because if they would have just if they would have just named this fork God mode, I think it would be more popular. Do you have any God mode? God mode is trading again. The God mode Litecoin pair is pumping at Yobit. God mode. Look at the title.
Sounds like it would have been a popular altcoin, right?
Yeah, that's totally pumpable. God mode. I mean, that sounds great. Right.
Yeah.
Watch this. This time in 2 days, there's going to be an altcoin coming out called God mode. Now that somebody said it, but you don't have to name your fork Bitcoin whatever. Bitcoin Dragon, Bitcoin Shitter, Bitcoin, or Bitcoin. Just name it something cool like God mode or Kitty mode or whatever you want to call it. And that's going to be a lot better for everybody than to call it United Bitcoin or Bitcoin United. It sounds great. Yeah, that's what's going to happen now. Someone's going to come out with UB, United Bitcoin. We're not Bitcoin United. We're United Bitcoin, like the United Nations. You see, so it's getting boring. It's getting really boring. Bitcoin Silver, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Petroleum, Bitcoin whatever. Just name it something cooler, please.
And if you notice though, with Bcash, when they forked, the wallet software was shit. It didn't support sweeping private keys at first. They didn't have hardware wallet compatibility. Miners were not mining transactions. Like they were doing every subtle thing possible to stop the price from just crashing when everybody dumps it. And now Garzik's taking it to the extreme. Fuck it. If people don't collect these coins in this arbitrary time limit, we're just taking them all. And you guys can't dump them back.
Well, unfortunately, Prayer Coin is already taken. There was an ICO for Prayer Coin. My idea would be to name it Grinch Coin, because if you think about it, inactive addresses, it's kind of like they're sleeping. And so Garzik is like the Grinch who wants to come on Christmas night and take everyone's Bitcoins while they're sleeping. If anyone's awake, I guess they could fend off the Grinch. But I say name it Grinch Coin.
The Garzik that stole Christmas.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't. My brain can't even process these things anymore to properly comment on them. It just makes my mouth want to go. Are you fucking
Shinobi?
Oh.
We know you have an obvious conflict of interest. We know you're working on a fork in the background there, and you just don't want any of the other ones to be successful. So you've got to talk shit and rant about every fork that happens, because we know in the back you're going to come out with your own fork soon. Shinobi, it's going to be called.
Crypto puppies.
Well,
No, I'm not forking it. I'm going next level. I'm going to port Bitcoin to the Bcash blockchain as a second layer system.
Okay, come again. Wait, hold on. Just can you break that down in 10 seconds? What that means?
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Counterparty on Bcash to recreate the entire original Bitcoin chain, but I'm going to just stuff it into the Bcash chain. So it's going to be like the real Bitcoin is living on Bcash.
So someone in the troll box would like to inform us that there's already a Japanese company called United Bitcoiners. So I feel like there's a lot, you wouldn't think that there would be a lot of name collision with this, but there apparently is. And another thing besides the God mode, I also wanted to point out the reason that we decided to begin this show with Satoshi's prayer is because apparently with United Bitcoin, there are going to be holy keys, holy public keys, and UTXO sets or something, which I thought was really funny. Like, what is with all, like, because I have seen a lot of people like accusing Bitcoiners of having like a religious obsession with Bitcoin, but this takes it to a next level when you're putting religious words in your code like that.
I got it.
Really
I know what's going on. He sees that Bitcoin Jesus is making Roger immune to all the righteous hate, and so he's trying to do something similar.
We haven't actually.
Yeah. Well, what's communion then? Is there a communion part of the GitHub? You know, what is the body and the blood of the chain?
Probably something to do with the miners meeting, like the Hong Kong Agreement or something.
Oh, it's steak.
It's steak. Yeah, that's good. That's not bad. That's not bad. Proof of communion, and then you can get some of the God mode coins. You see what I mean? If you pray enough, then you get some of the God mode coins. So praying could be just a kind of proof of stake, holding it in your wallet. So we're just creating an altcoin live on air, basically. Whole new concepts for people to use. All you have to do is just plug and play your programming skills, and you've got it. You know, someone's rolling it right now. You know, the new proof of stake coin. Pray it.
I actually think they should use proof of Satoshi, because, you know, if people like Gavin and Rick want us to believe that Craig is the real Satoshi, well, we just have to take it on faith, guys. Just take on faith. Gotta trust Gavin. We don't have to see the evidence. We're just plebs. We don't have to see it.
You know, maybe Chris DeRose is right, and this is just a religion. Are guys, are we just cultists starting a new religion? Is that what's going? Did Garzik just fucking cut to the truth that all of us are trying to ignore? Oh my god! Oh my god!
I don't know how I didn't see it sooner.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
All right, what's the next topic?
Okay, move that. All right, my joke.
Wait a second. Wait, we didn't get to the most offensive part about United Bitcoin. So Garzik has been one of the people that has been retweeting Bitfinex on Twitter. Interestingly enough, one of the goals of United Bitcoin is to create another Tether. Isn't that interesting?
What?
So Garzik is against Tether, and iPhonex does it, but it's okay on United Bitcoin, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
Maybe what if Garzik is Bitfinex?
Oh,
Possible.
We don't have to go that way.
But then
That
Metronome
would
was
be
supposed to
too
do
funny.
something similar too, right? Metronome was supposed to be doing the same type deal as Tether as well.
Well, I find it amazing. I mean, Jeff Garzik must never go to sleep, because how can he be working on, like, so he's making competitor to Bitcoin, and then he's also making another competitor to Bitcoin. Like, do the two competitors compete with each other? Like, are they going to be fighting now? Like, is he going to have a conflict of interest between his two projects?
No, because he's employed.
Oh, wait a second. That kind of
He's
sounds
employed
like Bitfinex,
somebody
doesn't
here.
it?
See, he's in cahoots, just like it says on United Bitcoin. He's got the power now.
Oh yeah, and there's some kind of foundation. Why is there always a foundation? Everything has to have a foundation,
Yeah, because
apparently.
that's a thing. Like foundation, that's regulatory camouflage. You say that if you say foundation 3 times, then you're okay.
It's just a research project. A foundation just means we're researching. There's nothing weird going on here.
Speaking of foundations, which is, I guess, kind of like a fun. Here, some awesome thing that a whale is doing. There's a whale out there that isn't some deranged narcissist losing his mind because people are questioning his title of Bitcoin Jesus. If anybody hasn't seen, anybody who knows anybody doing any kind of nonprofit work, does nonprofit work, or patronizes a nonprofit organization that they would like to see get access to more funds to do stuff, go over to the Pineapple Fund or point them out, because this is a whale who put up 5,000 Bitcoin, around $86 million, the majority of his holdings, specifically to start this fund for charity groups to apply for grants to. So, I mean, like, this is actually some positive news, something good being done. And I mean, if one person is already doing this at less than 20K, I mean, Jesus, imagine what's coming in the future.
Oh, you just said Jesus. Was that supposed to be a pun?
Oopsies. I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, and just to make clear, because some people might think of this or look at this and think, oh, it's probably a scam. Well, if it is a scam, there's absolutely no risk that you're taking from recommending nonprofits to it, because he's not taking money, he's giving away money. So you don't have to send him money. You just have to tell him which charitable foundation or project you want him to donate to. And it looks like I think he's already donated 5 million worth of Bitcoin. Is that what it said at the top? I didn't read all the numbers. Further up.
Yeah, a little bit more,
5.
I think.
6, okay, 6 million. So he's already donated $6 million worth of Bitcoin to these different projects. The water project, I think that's the one that they're trying to build wells in Africa. And EFF, I know BitGive does transparent. Actually, BitGive does transparent donations to other charities in and of itself. Well, not only to charities but to people. I don't actually recognize the other ones, but probably if you go to the website, then you'll get a description of what they do.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment that, on there, it does say that individuals can apply. It's not only nonprofits. It's like exceptional cases, I guess they'll look into everybody that applies. And yeah, I mean, like, I went through the project. It's absolutely not a scam. I mean, like, just running the meetup, it would be nice to have some streaming equipment stuff. So I just made a quick application, and there was nothing about enter any real private information. It's just an email, and they'll email you back and let you know. So yeah, definitely not a scam. And it's definitely awesome to see whales do this sort of thing, because yeah, this is sort of what I hope, these are, I don't know. It's just great to see people hold Bitcoin and be rewarded, and then maybe these charities get Bitcoin and they use what they need and they hold on to it and they can continue to use it over time as well. You know, it's just a different way for Bitcoin to be used, and a positive thing. I like it a lot. It's a good move. Good job, Pineapple Fund.
Yeah, and also speaking of donations, because we had that tax policy change as one of the topics. I believe that when you, at least I know for BitGive, when you donate to BitGive, that's tax deductible. So if you want to reduce your tax bill a little bit, that can be beneficial.
That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. I mean, speaking of people who might be in need of charity, this goon. I know we were just complaining about BitPay earlier, but here's yet another company, Blockchain.info, who, for some strange reason, a lot of people still use and is responsible for a big chunk of the traffic on chain, spending their time implementing Bitcoin Cash support instead of SegWit. Again, a company that is actively lobbying and campaigning to the public, complaining about high fees that could just integrating SegWit, bring those down drastically, and actually create specific savings for their customers, is dragging their feet, integrating an entirely new chain, which, as I said earlier, would require you to move your coins, expose yourself to the risks of a whole new market, as if this is some easier alternative than doing what is readily available right now to help the fee situation on the Bitcoin chain. I mean, it's like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah, it's super aggravating. I'll say that. You know, just keep hearing them talk about how, you know, oh, the network's congested. It's such a problem. We need fast transactions. This is supposed to be cash. And so we're going to, and then, you know, they're not taking any of the steps to actually get that, you know, network unclogged by taking that sort of, doing that update, getting it through and getting SegWit implemented. And they just rather scam all the way they can until finally they're either completely under that entire infrastructure and they're not even on the network anymore, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, this is ridiculous. I mean, I think I've used this analogy before, but you know, these companies are like a shipping company like FedEx screaming that, you know, the infrastructure, roads, which somebody else provides for them that allows their business to operate in the first place, isn't really up to par with what they want. And so they sit here demanding that other people, you know, the government, the taxpayers, invest their time and money improving this infrastructure so that they, a private entity, can profit for it without investing anything in it themselves. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like they've literally had more than a year to prepare for this, to test this, to integrate this in their system. And they still haven't even started. Like more than a year. And now they're just integrating other coins as if this fixes the problem, guys. I mean, like it is a complete disconnect from reality and a complete lack of logic. It's like, well, we have to do work to support this group of our customers, so we'll just ignore them and try to get other customers on some other product that we don't have to spend money to support. And that first group, well, they can just fuck off. We don't care about them because it costs money to maintain those customers. And it's ridiculous. Like this space and the complete inversion of logic that customers need to just shut the fuck up and do what the business says, as opposed to the business catering to what their customers want. It's delusional. Like it literally makes no sense to me other than an attempt to extort people into doing something they don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't know. It's ridiculous to me. I don't see anything really like interesting in that cash, Bitcoin Cash, BCH, Cash. I mean, yeah, it just seems like fiat. It's another centralized system. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't trust money on that chain, and it's certainly aggravating to see them moving more and more towards maybe defrauding, or just certainly, not leading their customers to actually buying real Bitcoin, but to, where they're ending up with Bitcoin Cash.
On a happier note, Bitwala did recently add SegWit support, so not all. And if anyone doesn't remember, Bitwala was actually one of the companies that signed the New York agreement, and then they pulled out because they said that we don't have enough developers supporting this fork. Like our developers don't support the fork. Bitcoin Core wasn't supporting the fork. The developers of the other clients weren't supporting it to any great extent. And so they actually went the route of, nope, we're just going to listen to our customers. And so they actually have implemented SegWit. So, I mean, Bitwala has, I don't think they have as many users as Blockchain.info. I mean, to be honest, Blockchain.info is not, it's not like they have any superior marketing or security or any kind of offering. It's just because they have the Blockchain.info namespace. Because when people think, oh, what should I use as a wallet? It's probably going to start with Bitcoin or blockchain. So they look it up on Twitter, and blockchain is a great namespace if you have a Bitcoin wallet. So I think that's probably responsible for most of the user traffic that they've been getting. And it's really unfortunate because it's one of the last wallets I would ever recommend to anyone.
Yeah, it's also they had some issues with suggesting a correct fee at certain times and so on. For example, hey Theo, I sent Bitcoin 2 hours ago. Why isn't it working? What fee did you use? I don't know. I used blockchain.
Yeah, and like Theo, look, like here is
I used blockchain.
a headline.
They don't even know. They don't know what the blockchain is. They just say, Theo, I used blockchain. I used my blockchain.
Yeah, and Theo, look at this. Like here's a headline from February. Says they are ready for SegWit. There it is, right there. And they still have not, almost a year later, actually fucking implemented it. Like, were they just outright lying? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know. I have to ask them. Who are their investors?
Roger Ver.
But other than, I'm sure there's more than one investor, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are, but Roger is a major one, and I mean, obviously, we all know how he feels about SegWit. So, like, this in February, we're totally ready for SegWit, guys. August comes and we get it, and now it's December, and they still haven't actually activated it, but they spent their time implementing the shitcoin that got forked off because SegWit evil.
Well, actually, I have a quick point to make about Roger. I was one of the few people who was able to stomach the entire interview that he did with Jimmy Song, and believe me, it wasn't only Roger that was difficult to stomach, unfortunately, because I just need to get if you're going to talk about technicals, then you have to be prepared for when a non-technical person or less technical person answers back. And also, you should probably know what the block size / block weight capacity of SegWit is if you're a developer. That didn't happen. But one of the interesting things that Roger said during that interview is actually that because he used to be saying SegWit is anyone can spend, blah, 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 it's evil. During that interview, he actually said he was ambivalent about SegWit, which I thought was pretty, I mean, that's a big jump from saying it's evil to saying you're ambivalent. And the reason he was ambivalent was he said that, well, it's not really a big enough block size increase. So he even admitted that it was a block size increase, even though he doesn't think it's enough. He's like, oh, you got 3% increase. What's that going to do? That's not enough capacity. But he has apparently backtracked from saying that it's evil and it's anyone can spend and it's insecure and all this garbage about signatures being removed from the blockchain. So maybe to Roger a little bit.
Yeah, let's get away. We'll talk about regression later.
I mean, now that we're here, I mean, like, hold on one second while I grab a surprise link. But I mean, you know, when we're talking about Roger kind of backpedaling on narratives and such,
I know
like
what that's full of.
Well, it's going to take a second because I am horrible with bookmark organization. Da, 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 da. Help me fill airtime, guys.
Well, I know that, yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear, you know, Roger saying ambivalence. I don't know, that must have been like, yeah, still rocking the Bitcoin Jesus name at that point, talking about ambivalence with SegWit and everything. And yeah, I just, I'm pretty sure you're going for that Bitcoin talk forum, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was something where I read it today and I was just like, yeah, you know, Roger talks all that about.
Let me guess, it's that story about where he de-anonymized one of his customers.
Well, look at the title. It's been renamed. All right, I'll let you go into it.
That's the funny part. Okay, so
this has been
relating to both Roger. But like both Roger and Blockchain.info, in regards to this, don't look too good. Roger, back in 2012, abused his administrative access to Blockchain.info's systems to literally dox a user, get his IP address, his personal information, and post it publicly on Bitcoin Talk over $50. This person pretty much tried to pull a little 1-2 with a payment. And yeah, Roger went through Blockchain.info's system, dug up his entire wallet information, posted all of that information publicly, and pretty much shamed this person after doxing them. And then when it all is said and done, because he's not a moderator at Bitcoin Talk, changed the name to Please Delete, because he hoped that the administration of Bitcoin Talk would simply delete this record of him literally violating a customer's privacy and posting their private personal information for the whole world to see. So, I mean, when you look at Roger kind of backpedaling on his bullshit narratives, you're like, oh, well, he has to backpedal because when they're actually exposed to information, they're going to fall apart. And when you look at the fact that he is a major investor in Blockchain.info and the way they're dragging their feet with SegWit integration, integrating Bcash, even though like we just showed you back in February, they said they were all good to go. I mean, is this really a business that you want to patronize? Like, not only are they offering a subpar product and pretty much outright lying about how prepared they are to integrate new features into that product, but one of their biggest investors literally abused his administrative privileges on the server that holds all the information you give them using their wallet to just shame somebody over $50. Like, is that a business that anybody watching wants to use?
I don't know, Shinobi. I think everyone should. That's good information to dig that up. That's really shitty, in my opinion, that happened. I don't know all the backstory about why he had admin rights to that, because you're not, and so on. But anyway, all right. So Peter Smith, you can just come on and you can say your side of the story from Blockchain.info. And if Shinobi goes off on you like that, then shouldn't he should have a right to say something, right? You can have I'm sure Shinobi would be happy to interview you about Blockchain.info, and you can tell us about your SegWit updates, and if you're going to add any more coins, or maybe you're even thinking about supporting counterparty tokens so we can continue the meme domination of blockchains worldwide. So that would be a good one. So Peter, you're out there. Hit us up.
And I guess, got to breathe, make myself calm down a little bit. But I think our last piece is kind of a nice introspective question. Is it an ethical thing for journalists to cover Bitcoin when they're personally invested themselves? I mean, obviously unless there's some shenanigans going on here, all of us on this show own Bitcoin. I mean, nobody hides that. So, I mean, I think it's a legitimate question. Like, does that introduce some kind of conflict of interest as we're covering, news on the space, or trying to teach or introduce new people to the ecosystem? Because, like, obviously, as owners, all of us have something financially to gain in doing so and convincing people to actually use Bitcoin. I mean,
sure, but I think that we're a pretty. I'm confident that we are not overt shilling to a stupid extent. If we had titles like "We hit 1800, that ain't shit, get in now," then I would be like, okay, that's too much. That's really beyond the line. You know what I mean? I think probably we're doing the opposite. People are probably stumbling on this and are like, fuck, I'm not buying this shit.
Selling.
People are crazy.
Yeah, they're selling.
Yeah,
they're selling because of us.
Yeah, they're like, this guy's going nuts on Blockchain.info. That's my favorite wallet. It's so easy. I don't have to download anything. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's a bit of a stretch. That would be a rare individual.
No, it could be new people. So I don't think that if you use us as an example, I don't really see an issue with it at all. And I think that educating people about possible pitfalls. That's a nice word. Pitfalls in the ecosystem is a good thing. And I don't think that's overshilling, but it's definitely out there, and everyone has to check themselves to a point. On the other hand, I think it's tricky, of course, with stocks. It's pretty clear that there can be big conflicts of interest, and there are journalists that have to write, I have shares in this company. Like if they write about Overstock, then they should disclose that. Typically, that's in most publications, ask them to do that. Whereas, I don't know. I mean, if I write about gold, do I say, yeah, I have a gold bar under my bed? I've never seen someone disclose that they own gold, though. You see what I mean? I've seen it with stocks for sure, more than one time. We see it. CoinDesk has a disclaimer about who owns CoinDesk, right? So there's not a conflict of interest with those companies, or if there is one, you can decide yourself, is what I mean. But I've never seen it for I own oil, I own silver, I own gold, I own platinum, anything like that, any of that kind of those commodities. I've never seen a disclaimer. Maybe I'm missing it, but I've never seen one.
Yeah, so I have like 3 different responses to this article because I think it was posted yesterday, and my first response is that I do on some level think that not just Bitcoin, but any cryptocurrency where you are recommending that someone invest in it. If you are telling people to buy it, or if you are telling them when to buy it or when to sell it or where to put it, like if you are taking an active role in someone's financial life, then you should disclose. You should at least disclose that you have so and so coins. That just seems sensible to me, because I think, like with stocks, you have to do that. I mean, I would expect someone who has gold to do that as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean that what they're telling you is bad. It just gives you a perspective on, because like someone said, they would actually feel better to get advice from someone who did own the asset that they were shilling or whatever, because then that means at least that person has a stake in what they're sharing. And so if it goes badly, well, it also goes bad for them.
Right. What do you think about if I tell you not to buy something? For example, I say that is a scam. Don't buy that, because that's it's advice. Even though I'm not saying buy it, I'm giving you. Well, I didn't say don't buy it, but you see what I mean? Like, where's the line where I'm also giving advice, but in the other direction? And I mean, that could affect. Yeah. I could say, well, I missed my opportunity because you said it was a scam. So it's kind of a weird line. I'm not sure either what the right answer is. But
you could also be saying it's a scam because you are invested in a competitor to that
exactly
token or whatever. I mean, I think at the very least, I mean, if you're a former Wall Street broker or banker or something, and you still have this latent desire to return to Wall Street because Wall Street doesn't have scammers. Bitcoin is full of scammers that put Bitcoin addresses in the YouTube comments and things like that. If you have this latent desire to go back to Wall Street, I mean, I would be a little hesitant to take your advice on Bitcoin, especially if you give trading advice about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies and you don't actually trade in cryptocurrencies at all. I would consider that questionable. My third take on this topic in general is that I think that actually, you know, if we're to say, okay, someone cannot write about any kind of financial thing, whether it's a commodity or a currency or a token, I think that this expectation that we should disclose like which ones we own or which ones we're invested in, I think that should apply to all financial journalists. So if you're writing about the US dollar or the peso or the euro or the ruble, you should say which of those currencies you own. The best thing for you to do is to only write about currencies in countries that you don't live in, because then you have no stake in what happens with that currency. Yeah, so if we're going to apply that standard to Bitcoin, I mean, once Bitcoin gets big enough that it's being used as a currency around, like a currency around the world, then I think if journalists think we should have that kind of standard where you can't write about Bitcoin if you own Bitcoin, well, I say you can't write about US dollars if you own US dollars. I mean, at what level or what properties do these things have to require people that write about them to divulge that they own them? Like, why is the US dollar different from Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Well, that's complicated, but I think that, I mean, there's some good.
Oh, you muted.
Muted.
Oh, sorry. I didn't pay my net neutrality bill. Anyway, it was good. Yeah, I agree. I think that's interesting, Janine. I can see the road. That's, I mean, at the end, on the other extreme, then every article has 5 disclaimers, at the end. So it's kind of, I just think obvious ones should definitely be mentioned. But yeah, I think that, like I said, for as far as Block Digest or some other shows, I would say it's the opposite. Or to some podcasts in this space, I know it's even too much that's a scam. And then you have to wonder if that's a conflict of interest as far as a competitor, even if that's not the intention of the people. They're like, oh, I'm going to make a hit piece. Maybe that was not the intention, but it's just not seeing how strong the bias is sometimes.
Yeah, and I think because you can go, Rick. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to mention that, yeah, it's like that conflict of interest is like certainly there, but I mean, like for the most part, I think you're right, Theo. It's like we just, what we're doing here, I think for the most part is we're kind of just educating and telling people like the fine lines that they should walk. And, I know that sometimes like I get excited talking about Bitcoin, and then people think that I'm telling them to invest, and I got to tell them like I'm not telling you to invest. And yeah, I just it's like an emotional tug. It's like you want something to work out, and so you kind of naturally might be pumping it. And yeah, I certainly caught myself doing that once or twice. And it's I don't know if you could really avoid it. I mean, like I think it goes without saying that, like, we're all Bitcoin holders a little bit, or, so, I mean, and we're not really that pumpy or too pushy. So I don't know. Every journalist has a little bit of a conflict of interest on stuff they're reporting on, because they usually have some sort of sentiment towards it. Just as long as we're not like overdoing it, I think is the important part.
Yeah, because I've personally, like, I've had people say that they will send me money and I can buy Bitcoin for them and hold it for them, and I'm like, no, I've never told anyone to buy any kind of. I've shown people how to buy something if like they show enough interest I have like pointed them to, these are the safe places to get Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, but I've never told a person to buy it, and I've certainly never taken money to buy someone else's coins, because to me, if someone is saying, like, that is an extreme amount of responsibility to be holding someone else's coins. Like, I don't want that responsibility. Like, you know, especially if I just lose them, or if Bitcoin goes bad, like, I don't want to be responsible for other people's money. That's the whole point. Every time someone asks me that, I say the whole point of Bitcoin is that you control your own finances, and you should not treat it as an investment. You should learn about it first. You should learn how to hold it securely, how to transact it, and things like that. So I'm willing to teach people about it and how to handle it, but I've never told anyone to buy any cryptocurrency. So, and I think this article kind of falls into the whole idea that there's some kind of objective journalism out there, and I've been pretty against that for several years, because first of all, the idea that the people who are most qualified to write about something are the ones that are completely detached from what they're writing about. Like, first of all, you're never going to find someone like that. No one is ever completely detached from what they're writing about. And the idea that you're going to get good journalism out of people because what you most often get when people are detached from something, you get ones that write terrible articles that they don't understand it at all. Like, I would rather have someone who's invested in it and understands the technology and can write intelligently about it than to have some supposedly objective party come in and explain something like the Lightning Network. Like, who would you go to learn about the Lightning Network? Not some, you know, person who's been living in a metaphorical cave. So the idea that you can make journalism objective by detaching yourself from the subject, I think, is completely fallacious. The way that you make journalism objective is that you rely on evidence and you provide sources so that people don't have to trust your word. They can verify it for themselves. That is the whole point.
Sounds like a scam.
I am never doing an ICO for revision control. I am never doing an ICO for revision control journalism ever.
Okay, nice. All right. Is there I think there's another topic someone wanted to comment on before we head out?
Yeah, it's just one last thing I wanted to mention, and I kind of wanted to do this at the end, speculating wildly on something without any serious evidence to it. For those who haven't noticed, Chris Ellis had canaries pretty much in his Twitter description, which were recently removed. And I just kind of wanted to point that out and kind of remind everybody that this entire situation going on with Tether and Bitfinex, there's not really evidence one way or the other. Pretty much just like remember to apply your critical thinking when you're looking at accusations or defenses to accusations in this ecosystem. Because however you feel about the entire narrative that Bitfinex is pushing, there is no objective evidence to validate his narrative, in the same way that Bitfinex has not provided any completely objective evidence that the narrative is false. And so while this is something I felt that should be pointed out to people to let them draw their own conclusions, I just want to remind everybody, like, don't run away on a train of wild speculation, because in this whole situation, there's really no definitive proof one way or the other. And we kind of all just have to sit and wait and see what happens, because, you know, that's pretty much where we're at. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah, I don't know that situation. Yeah, hopefully we can. Yeah, it's done.
But I guess anybody else have any thoughts on that or last thoughts before we end the show today?
No, I think that I don't have any other comments on that topic. I just want to remind everybody to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. I can't even say it with a straight face. To give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for everyone in the troll box. I haven't been there, but I'm sure you're there. I feel your presence. And make sure to put your comments below. We'll get right to them as soon as possible. We're always working to improve our metrics and get as many subscribers as possible in order to spread the Bitcoin gospel, as we did with the beginning prayer today.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's all, folks. Remember, though, the liking and subscribing in Chris's honor is entirely voluntary. Adios.
Peace.